Here's what I want to do. I want to come back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier in terms of, being more conversational. So now we are more conversational and we're having more personalized dialogue. And what that requires is a deep understanding of the voice of the customer. And you talk about a voice of the customer decline. And just to give a couple of reference points, a couple of years ago, Forrester did a customer obsession study, found that less than 3% of B2B companies are customer obsessed. But guess what? 100% of us, including those other 97 that aren't customer obsessed, say we are, right? And say we're customer first, we're customer obsessed, right? So what do you mean by we're in a voice of customer decline? And what do we do about it?
I think from a marketing standpoint in particular, and I'm not a contrarian. I want to be clear about that, but I also have my own judgments. And I'm not a believer in this whole concept of personas. I know everybody loves personas. I actually think that's a detriment because what'll happen is we'll try to get the voice of the customer in a campaign and my team will say, well, we've got the CMO, the CFO, the chief procurement officer, and it falls under its own weight. It's just not practical. And I think decline happened because people forget in marketing. If you think about the word marketing, like for your audience, did you ever really think about the word? It's the market. So what does that mean? So if we chose to be in marketing for a living, we need to understand the customer better than anybody else in the room. So if I'm with the CEO and the head of engineering and the head of consulting, and there's something in the discussion around the client and what their pain points are, not so much their needs, but their pain points, right? That the marketing person has to stand up and say, yes, I've done the research in whatever way. I've talked to a bunch of clients, done the surveys, and I can stand up and confidently explain in detail for this target segment what their pain points are for that customer. Obviously, the chief marketing officer and the chief procurement officer at that customer are going to have the very obvious slants to it. But the pain point for a hotel chain, you need to understand that. And I think we end up declining a little bit in the voice of the customer because it's a maze when you start to do account-based marketing and you pick apart so many different roles within the customer. I'm sure some people have figured it out. I've been around. And to me, it just seems like a detriment and it creates so much extra effort. And there's only so many hours in the day and so many people on the team. And at the same time, you lose that spark of like, what is the mission critical pain point that client? They're trying to say everybody wants to make more money or save costs. It's got to be very specific to that segment. That's sort of the core of my ABM to that client. You have to know it, you have to figure it out.
So there's actually been studies that have shown when we do try to segment so much head of procurement, CFO, CTO, CEO, CRO, CMO, I mean, that it's actually a detriment. It works against us. And we've been trained that to reach the buying group, the hidden buyer that has half the influence on the decision making purchase, we got to talk to them. We got to walk a mile in their shoes, right? And we don't have a really good mechanism. We're not in meetings with them. We don't really have direct communication with them. It's difficult. So therefore, the fact that we're going to actually take a really difficult communication strategy to reach the rest of the buying group, and on top of that, we're going to divvy it up in about 8 different ways and make it much more complex and harder on us, kind of seems crazy.
I didn't know there were studies.
I'm
That's good
gonna
to hear.
I'm gonna send it to you. I got to look back up. And because it absolutely 100%, the recommendation from the study was exactly what you said. Go to the pain point that company is having, their challenges that they have to achieve long-term sustainable growth. That's where you focus 100% of your time there.
If I can jump in there, let's flip it around. I'm a CMO and I'm a persona, I'm a target. I'm in every database. I'm on every list. I get all the emails. By the way, if I replied to each one, I would not have a job. I wouldn't have any time in the day, but I get a lot of them. But you can learn a lot. I'll forward it to my team. We'll talk about different approaches people make. It is very rare when somebody does what you and I are talking about, Steve, where I look at usually it's an email, where I look at an email and say, "Oh, wow, they must have read our annual report and our earnings script and must have listened to a podcast I did with somebody, and it's interesting." Usually it's something if it's anything, it might be a half a sentence about my latest LinkedIn post just to show, like, I saw you. It's sort of a veneer of personalization that almost backfires. And so the voice of the customer decline, I see it as a target when I'm capturing the communications coming to me as a target.
So let me have you comment further on something else you said. You said it's the responsibility of the marketing guy or the marketing person, right? To really be the voice of the customer. And Gartner's told us that, Forrester's told us that, Deloitte, McKinsey, everybody's told us that. In a B2B company, there isn't a chief customer officer. There's not a chief experience officer, which is really all about the customer. And they've been recommending for years that we as CMOs stand up and represent the customer. Yet we don't go into any of our board meetings and have any of us asked, tell us what's going on with the customer. What's changed this year versus last year? How are we missing the mark? What are the new challenges and the things that we need to be thinking about to hit the mark with the customer? We're not asked that. We're not held accountable to that. And in fact, we got every other department that has every idea on their own what the customer needs, right? We got sales that's talking to, the entire pipeline. We got customer success that are talking to customers every day. We got the chief product officer. I mean, everybody is a customer expert, which leads to, by the way, the number one challenge that B2B companies have. You know what it is?
No.
Internal alignment.
Okay, I'll buy that.
And we can talk about how we found that out.
No, we know this from the work we do with our clients. That actually resonates with me. Yes.